Hey everyone, Tasha Danielle here. This is the first Financial Garden Live. I decided to do this coming off of doing a lot of lives last month for Essence. If you all remember, I was trying to get votes to win $100,000 for my business. And I had amazing guests on, and I got a lot of feedback, a lot of messages from people saying that they wanted to see me do more lives. So this is my first official Financial Garden Live episode, and I will be going live every Thursday at 7 o'clock. So always remember that. Keep your reminders set. If you follow Financial Garden, you will get the alerts. So this is going to be a solo live for me. I go solo on Instagram from time to time. This is my first time doing it on Facebook and YouTube. And tonight I'm going to be talking about financial infidelity, or I guess financial entanglement, because that's all the crave right now. Everybody's making all these memes about entanglement. But I am going to go deep and share how I almost was evicted and I had no idea. I didn't know until 2 days before my stuff was almost out on the street because of my then fiance was not telling the truth about finances, and I was completely in the dark. So I'm going to get to that in one moment. But first, I want to say that, I will be doing this every Thursday. So if you want to pay Rochelle say laugh out loud, I was laughing out loud when that happened. But if you want to be a guest on Financial Garden Live to talk about finances, so you'll be telling your personal money story like I'm telling mine today, or if you want to just talk live to get some advice, there's a link on the screen. It's in the comment section. If you want to click it, we can have a call just to kind of go over what I'm looking for in guests and what the dialogue would be. If you've seen any of my lives before with guests, you'll get an idea what that will look like. But I think it's important for everyone to be transparent and learn together. So I don't want to just be on here by myself telling all my business and giving tips. It's always good to hear from other people. So if you're watching this, you have comments or some questions or comments, make sure you drop them in the comments below. Always hit the heart buttons to show me some love and share this video and tag people who may be interested in this story. So why am I saying this? If Financial Garden is a financial education company that teaches kids and educators and adults about money, why am I talking about financial infidelity? Well, it ties into Financial Garden's first financial plan, and that is emotions and money. And I really didn't even have the idea to even talk about personal finance until my eviction. Like I started journaling. Well, I was already journaling anyway, but I really was like, I really want to share this story because it's so crazy. And at the time, I was working on being a CPA, and how does a CPA almost become on the streets? So I want to start there because that's where emotions and money came from. Before I even knew what Financial Garden's name would be, I always thought it was important to dig deep and talk about people's money mindset. So this is why I'm talking about financial infidelity today, because it goes back to the first financial plan and Financial Garden. There are other financial plans such as entrepreneurship. That's the second one. Budgeting, banking, debt fundamentals, talking about getting rid of debt and improving credit scores, things like that. And then the last plan is investing. So those are the topics that I will be focusing on every live when I come on Thursdays. And again, if you want to be a guest, I will show that on the screen. It's in the comment section too. All right, so now that I got all that out the way, let's do some story time. If you watch YouTube, you'll see like sometimes people have story time telling entertaining stories about their personal life. So I don't know how entertaining this will be, but here we go. So I was driving home from work and I had a call from my leasing office. I live in an apartment with my, like I said, then fiance. I'm just gonna say ex because I don't want to keep saying it over and over again. And I'm like, I don't know why they would be calling me. And they told me that I needed to come in and sign a payment arrangement because the other leaseholder had set up a payment arrangement, and for it to be effective, both people on the lease had to sign it. And I'm like, payment arrangement? I don't do those. My mama told me if I don't do anything else, always make sure you pay that mortgage or that rent so you have somewhere to lay your head at night. And so I'm like, payment arrangement. I'm like, okay, they must have had a mistake. And she was like, no, she said my full name. And she's like, you need to come to the office today before we close, or so we can go over some things. So as soon as I get off the phone, I call X and I'm like, what's going on? The front office, the leasing office is telling me that I got to come in and sign a payment arrangement that that we both need to be a part of. And I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. And he asking me like, what did they say? I'm like, what are they talking about? Don't worry about the details of what they said. What are they talking about? Because I don't like to look like I want to know what's going on. I'm like, I feel like you have me out here looking a little crazy. He didn't really answer the question. So I get to the front office and they're like, show me what he wrote out as a payment arrangement, and was nearly $2,000 behind in rent. And they had eviction scheduled for that Monday or Tuesday. This was a Friday when I was coming in to sign this payment arrangement. Completely blindsided. When I say I had no idea that this was going on, I had no idea. So I was working in an accounting firm at the time. Ironic. I'm working in an accounting firm about to be evicted. But I traveled a lot. I worked 80, 90 hours a week. And our agreement as far as like planning our life out together, like I was focusing on paying off my debt. I wasn't on my debt payoff journey at the time, but it was, you pay the rent and I'll pay other stuff, but that was his responsibility. So first thing is people like, oh, you were giving money, you didn't know. I'm like, no, he worked and that was his responsibility and I had mine. I didn't think I needed to check, like behind someone like a child, especially since we both live together, that you're making sure you're carrying, like, being responsible and doing what you said you would do. So I'm like, okay, payment arrangement, so $2,000. I'm like, you know what? Can I write a check for a portion of it? I had just paid all my student loans for the moment, and I was overpaying at that time. And I'm like, okay, let me just write this. I'm like, I definitely don't want to get evicted. I don't know what's been going on. They're like, well, he must have been intercepting the mail because we've left notices on the door. It's been court hearings that you missed. I was out of town like a lot. I only really was home on the weekends for a significant period of time. And I'm like, wow. So I'm missing court documents with my name on it. And I'm like, I'm freaking out at this point. And I'm like about to start crying. And she's like, do you want to? I'm like, no, just what do I owe? Like I'm always about, I want to just pay what I owe. I don't want any sympathy or like, oh, this poor woman had no idea. Like, let's give her some time. I'm like, no, what do I owe you? Let me just figure that out. And when I went to, yes, Rochelle, we have to be careful who we trust. And yes, financial entanglement. Yes, that's what I was involved in. I'm gonna be using that. So I went to write a check and she's like, no, we can't take any more personal checks for your account on your lease because too many personal checks have bounced. I'm like, oh my God, what do you mean? So I'm like, okay, I don't have time to go to the bank right now because this was Friday evening and they were like just about to close to get a personal check. And it was like that was the main amount that was due to prevent the eviction, but there was other things due. And I'm like, okay, I didn't have what the total amount due. I didn't have it in my savings. And I'm like, okay, game plan. So I just like for real have a panic attack when I leave out of there. First thing I do is call my mama and tell her what's going on. Like, I'm about to be evicted apparently. I had no idea about it. Like, I feel so stupid. Like, how am I working all these hours a week in an accountant, about to be a CPA and about to be evicted? Like, I was just crying. I was like literally having panic attacks. Like, I was like freaking out. Not because I'm like, oh, feel like I was going to be homeless on the streets, but just out of like, wow, I trusted somebody and here I am out here looking stupid. And I just don't know how this could happen to me. So I called him and he's just like, what did they say? What did they say? And I'm like screaming on the phone, like, you were not paying the rent is what they said. And we're about to be evicted. So after that conversation. I'm like, you need to get out, but you figure out where you're going, but I have to figure out how to get this together or whatever. I didn't even at that time. I'm just thinking about myself, because clearly, if you couldn't handle this for all these months that we were living together, I'm not even about to ask you about where's the money. I don't even care. I have to worry about myself right now. And so I thankfully had credit cards. And so I took a cash advance out. That was my first time taking out a cash advance. So when I talk about my debt story and paying off $80,000 of debt, and some people may say, oh, well, it must have been easy. You didn't have any kids. It was student loans and whatever. The 80,000 happened because life happens. And if I didn't have my credit card to take the cash advance out, I could have had a payment arrangement with them to, make sure that I wouldn't be evicted. But I would have, that would have just prolonged things for me. So I just took the cash advance. So I knew I was going to be to pay the cash advance back when I got paid again. Because remember, I just said this was a Friday. I just got paid, and I had just paid all my bills that morning. So I'm like, okay, I can pay this off in 2 weeks. I got a cash advance and then got the cashier's check to pay the full amount due on my rental balance. Pause right there. Credit checks. I wasn't looking at my credit report, not credit checks, credit report. I wasn't looking at my credit report as much as I do now. So this was a few years back. This was in my mid-20s. But I didn't even realize that I had late payments on my credit report. Luckily, they had removed them because I explained to them the situation. But I had a public record on my credit report. Now, up until this point, I had already, even with this happening, my credit score never dropped below like a 720, even with all this going on. I used to check my credit score back then like every few months. But ever since this happened, it's a constant, got the alert set up so I know what's going on in my credit report. But I had a public record because of who I was involved with. We were engaged. I thought this was a person I was going to spend my life with, the rest of my life with. So I trusted this person. And now I have a public record on my credit report and trying to make sure any late payments is removed because I don't want my credit score to be damaged. So anyway, I cut the check, get the cash advance, cut the check, and get current with it. Put him out. You got to go. I don't know where you're going, care where you're going, but you're not staying here. That was just the first part. And then it was like the why. Like, how did this happen? How did I not worry about yourself? Yeah, exactly. Yes, DeShawn, public records are horrible. And I did have one on here. So when I talk about telling people when I share stories about how to improve your credit, a lot of it is because of what I went through personally, and also from working one-on-one with people and giving them advice and looking at their credit report and helping them. But I'm transparent, and that's why when people come to me and I work with them one-on-one, I'm never judgmental, because you look at me on paper and we're like, how were you almost evicted? How you have a public record and all this stuff. I understand life happens. So that's why when people come to me about their financial situation, I'm never judgmental. But anyway, back to where was the money, right? He never really had an answer to why what happened with the money. I'm not going to go into detail here. It was like basically everything that he told me didn't make any sense. He was working, saw this person all the time. And so I'm just like, this is crazy. And before we moved in, before the engagement, I was very clear on how I was financially. All my friends know I'm very, very straight to the point, and I'm very, very structured. So I've had a budget since forever, like BlackBerry days, like for real. On my BlackBerry, had my little Excel with my budget. I used to write my budget out. And so after hearing what happened, I was mad at him and blamed him, but I had to take accountability for myself as to how come I didn't know anything about this. How could I have turned a blind eye to this or not see it? And at first it was like I had no idea, but you always know you have that gut check, women's intuition. For the fellas, you have your stomach mind right in your gut. And I had that in our relationship, like right when we moved in. So I want to touch on that. No, definitely not. Rochell, interested to know how you would go about this situation in future purpose after you live with someone that decided to pay cover costs. For me personally, I would not live with anyone I was not married with, but it would be, I don't project anything that negatively happened to me onto the next person I'm in a relationship with. But I would need to make sure it's transparent. Now you have online portals and you can see when rent is being paid and it's online emails or whatever. I was so overwhelmed with working 80, 90 hours a week and studying for the CPA exam. That was out of sight, out of mind. So now I won't just be like, oh, I trusted it happened. There's too many ways for me not to let this happen again if I were to be married, even in mortgage or whatever alerts and making sure all that stuff so you know what's going on. Yes, Tisha, yes. I don't know how to be playing about my money. So that's why it was so embarrassing to me. Like, how did this happen to me? Like, so I had to go back and think about the money habits. I'm naturally a saver. And when I went through this and I was journaling, like, what did I turn a blind eye to? It was, number one, him never really wanted to talk about money. Now, I have to realize that everyone doesn't want to talk about money morning, noon, and night like I do. But whenever I would say, like, let's talk about the budget for the wedding, like who's doing what or whatever, it was like, okay, we'll talk about these details later. It was always like high level. And I'm sitting there like with my computer, my Excel open, like, this is what I have coming in, this is what's going out. What do you have going on? And it was like, well, this is getting paid. Like, I don't really want to disclose it. And I'm seeing it cut and dry now, but it was just like the curve, you know what I mean? When you went and had a conversation, it's like, why can't we ever had a serious conversation? So that was number one. When talking about the wedding expenses, it was never want to like sit down and talk about it. Now, before we moved in together, it was clear about who was paying what, but I knew how much money he made. I didn't know how much debt he had. I didn't know that he was doing cash advances. I didn't know about a lot of stuff. Another thing is credit score. I did ask about credit score. And I didn't know his credit scores at the time. I worked at the bank and he opened an account, so I was able to see his credit score, and I did see some of his financial makeup. But that should have been like red flag number one. Now, some people are not comfortable, like I said, but if you never want to have that conversation, you never want to share it, that's kind of like a red flag to me. But when you're in a relationship, they say love is blind. And so that was one of the things I was like, wow, I should have pressed more or whatever. Look, like hindsight is always 2020. So another thing was, I'm naturally a saver. He was a spender. I think in general, like even when couples come to me about improving their finances, it's always a saver and a spender. It's very rare that I have two savers coming to me or two spenders coming to me trying to figure out how to improve their finances. It's usually one or the other. And I think it's kind of like opposites attract. I'm a saver. I'm more conservative. Spenders are usually the life of the party. They want to have a good time. So opposites attract. And the spender wants, okay, this person, they're always going to hold it down or know what's going on. So they have a safe and you're like excited. So two attract. But the root of why there's there. So that's where the emotions and money come into play. And what I talk about in Financial Guardian. So there's reason that people are savers and spenders. Mine came out of a fear of, I grew up very humble beginning, single parent household. I never wanted to continue to live in Section 8 housing and live in certain places. I just didn't want to. So I wanted to save and make sure I was able to get out of certain areas. And I always want to make sure I had enough. So I tell parents that even if you don't talk to your parents, I tell parents that even if they don't talk to their children, yes, cash advances. Even if you don't talk to your children about money and sit down and have that conversation, they feel it in the household. So I was very nosy. My mom know I was trying to calculate her checks when I did multiplication. When I learned multiplication, I'm like, how much she make an hour? How much like that was literally me. And I think I tried to put my mama on the budget in elementary school, like no lie. So like the fact that I talk about money and I'm a CPA, everyone's like, this makes so much sense for you. But I watched my mom be stressed and make sure bills are paid. So I was always one of like, I'm going to make sure that I'm always going to have it. I'm not going to be stressed and worried about if it's a big, like if this is good payday or not. So I always wanted to be like, I'm going to have it on my own, and I'm always going to be able to look out for my mom. And thankfully I am. If you know me, I love my mama. I take her on vacations all the time. I haven't bought her a car. Like, I look out for my mom. But growing up and like that mindset of why I saved so much in conservative, it was out of fear, right? So that's a scarcity mindset. So that's something that I go over with students and even talking with couples one-on-one. You have to get to the root of why you have the financial habits that you have. So he was a spender. Yeah. Yes, exactly. He was a spender, and you're talking about I want to just go over like saver versus spender, like the why. I feel like was just flashy. Like, people have reasons why they're spenders. So that comes out of insecurity of looking like you want to have more than what you actually have, from a place of lack. So when you take all the anger away, it's like, let's peel back and understand why. And for women, like, you see a lot of memes of like, okay, I'm gonna hide this, my husband won't find out, keep this in the thing. That's a ha, but it's really some issues behind it, because it's like you're not being truthful with how you're spending your money. Just like, okay, yeah, you may not be evicted like how I was right there, but something was going on with him that made him get to that point. So there's different vices in how you are with your money, and it's important to try to figure out why. So if you're watching this, try to think about what's your money behavior and the why behind it, because it's so important, so you can kind of fix those habits on why your money behavior can prevent you from reaching financial goals, and it can be positive or negative. So for example, if you're always spending because you like life is short, tomorrow isn't promised, so I live my best life now, I don't have to save all this money, I'm not going to invest, it's not promised. Okay, so that's one of your reasons why you had that money makeup, your money habit of spending. So that can prevent you from buying a house, because you're saying like, I don't need to save. So you're never gonna have money for a down payment, never gonna have money saved up to take that dream vacation. You may borrow to get what you need as far as going into debt to have certain things, but you never think about the long term. You just living in the moment. That could be one. Or you could be a saver and could be really to the extreme where you don't even want to invest. You don't want to make too many purchases. You just want to have it because you want to see that amount in your account. So either way, you really have to examine if you've been stuck financially in a certain place for a while and you can't get over this hump. You have to figure out why. Whether you are a saver or a spender, either extremes in either category is going to prevent you from living the life you truly want to live. And so if you are stuck and you like 2020 is supposed to be my year, but Corona happened. Okay, this may be our new normal for the moment right now. You have been unemployed and you're like, okay, what can I do to side hustle, my entrepreneur? Like, what can I do to change my situation? You have to really figure out what's preventing you, what's preventing that, what's causing that procrastination. So that's what I want to speak on. I am very nosy. I spend a lot on food. Can you help me? I don't care about buying shoes, but crab cakes. Do you have a platform to give CPK advice? You are funny. Everybody has theirs. So Rochelle, I would say for spending on food, like you have to get to your why, what you want to accomplish, right? So you gonna crab cake away another investment property because you do properties, right? Are you gonna crab cake away whatever goal that you and your family may have? That's what you have to think about. Is all these crab cakes add up. So that's what I'm saying to you. It's always important to get to your why. If you don't have that, I could sit on here and talk to tomorrow morning. Nothing's going to change about it. And so even with him, even with us about to be evicted, his spending habits did not change. I ended the engagement and everything, but it was still like not there because I'm like, you're going to pay me back my money. So I cut the check then, but you're going to pay me back my money. And he did, but it was just like, even with those, the dates you said you were going to give me X, Y, and Z, it was missed. So it still was like that, even about to be on the street, still didn't change. And I want to say before, he was slick and was like, let's look for a better apartment. Let's look for a more modern apartment, trying to move out of the current situation. Like that was going to come up when we both applied for the new place. But just even then, he was just trying to just escape the situation. So a lot of people who are spenders, who are even gamblers or whatever, they're like, it always works out. They don't know how, but it's gonna work. It's gonna work out. So you're just wishing away. Just keep wishing. All I just do is cash them in. So that's what I'm saying. What do you want out of life? Get into your why to make you stick to it. How much should you save before you invest? My advice is always to have 3 to 6 months living expenses saved up before you start investing, because investing is not guaranteed. So if you put some money in the stock market, it's not a guarantee you're going to get a return. And when you invest, it's not gambling. So it's going to be a while. It could be a while before you see the return. So before you start investing, I always suggest that you have money saved up, because of emergency situations, like if you was like me about to get evicted, hopefully nobody's living this life that I live in my mid-20s. But I always suggest that's the amount you should look forward to saving. Okay, so what if you are a saver but afraid to trust in opening a line of credit or investing? So saving and investing are two different things. So if you are a saver, you have this 3 to 6 months and you're like, where do I start investing? If you are employed, I always say start with your employer with your 401k. If they have a match, put as much in your 401k as they do to the match. And then after that, I always suggest get a Roth IRA, because that's individual retirement account. So with Roth IRAs, you're picking funds. I'm not a big believer in buying individual stock. If you really want to see long-term gains, I don't really do the one and hold or whatever. That's just not me. I invest in my retirement funds and index funds and real estate. So that's what I would suggest. If you see a lot going on right now with this forex trading. I'm not gonna go there because that's a new MLM that popped up. But when people are day trading, that's different from investing into individual stock. Day trading is a full-time job. You're constantly in the market, constantly making trades. So the day trading and investing are different, just like investing and gambling are different. You can't expect to put $1,000 in the stock market and double it the next day. That can happen, but it's not the normal thing. So hopefully let me know if I'm answering your question. If not, shoot it back in there. I had my social compromise and have been traumatized. Social security number, like, did you get it? Are you saying social security number? Did you get it fixed? So respond back and let me know. I have a few minutes. Should I hold off before investing more? Depending on what they are. So if you have this savings and stuff, you have your 3 to 6 months saved up in a savings account that's liquid. So if you were to lose your job, we don't get no more stimulus money, no more unemployment, you still got that 6 months, and you're saying you already invested. Are you invested in your retirement accounts or individual funds? Or are you trying to figure out where to go next and invest in? So let me know, like, back, what are you trying to invest in, I guess? I mean, what are you currently investing in, so I can better answer that question. What do you think of forex trading? So trying to be careful with this. So it's a new norm. It's a new fad going on with forex trading. It's a multi-level marketing company, and I'm not really big on MLMs. I'm not saying that they are horrible. I personally am not big on MLMs. So I know there's a lot of people now going around saying get involved in forex trading. My question is, are they selling you the actual trading? Or are they selling you to buy into the company and keep getting people in to buy, to get memberships, to get more people to buy? Or are they actually teaching you about trading, or do you understand how to trade? So there's different forex trading that's going on. There's some MLMs that are just focused on you getting more people on. So it's really you're not really learning any trading. And there's some MLMs that's doing the forex trading that actually are showing you how to make trades. But if that's going on, it definitely should be some simulations involved when you're doing some trading. And it should definitely be over extended period of time. You can't learn about forex trading or day trading in one day. If you see anyone, I'm trying to think of her name right now, I'm drawing a blank. She does day trading, and she made $1 million off of doing that, and she has courses, but her courses are like months long. It's simulations in there. It's so you can really understand how to do it. If that's not going on, I'm just a little biased about it. Sorry. I only have 2 credits because she have more. I'm scared about. No, so listen, there is a thing of people think like they have to have a certain amount of credit cards to have a certain a high credit score. Now it's all about the mix or the balance. So to me, like I have a ton of credit cards because I do travel hacking. So I don't incur debt, but like I took me and my mom to Hawaii for free just off of credit card, like the reward hacking. So I do have a lot of credit cards. So if you're saying should you have more, are you saying because you want to improve your credit score? Because you should, if you want to have a certain credit score, it's good to have a mix of credit cards, in an installment loan, whether it be your mortgage, student loans, if you still have those. If you have student loans and you start paying those off, you'll see your credit score drop. So Alyssa, are you saying that should you have more to improve your credit score or not? And then also too, let me know, you said, should I hold off before investing more? I'm going to put a link in here too for a consult. So a lot of these I can't answer until I have more questions. So I'll ask you a question and you ask me a question. So I'm just going to drop this in here if you want to have an actual consult with me, so I can understand what your questions are a little bit more, and I don't have to put your business on the screen. I do have right now until August 1st. I am doing complimentary. After August 1st, they will not be complimentary anymore, and that's just to celebrate everyone who supported me, voting for me for Essence. So I wanted to be able to offer some personal consults and for people who are thinking about starting their business. So the personal and business consult, they're 10 or 15 minutes. So I'm going to drop that link in the comments. So I don't want to have y'all putting your business all out here on the internet street. Yeah, okay. So listen, I just put my link in there for a consult. So just click that and then book something with me so I can see everything on here. That's for everyone that's watching. If you're like trying to piecemeal a question, you want me to, you're like, okay, you're not really getting what I'm asking you. It's because it's choppy. So click the link, schedule a consult. It's free right now to August 1st. After more to do. So if you're talking about you flag, but surely I couldn't get a straight answers to what was going on, basically gave up. So you gave up on clearing your credit. Don't ever give up on clearing your credit. So click the link to do a consult so I can understand a little bit more about what you're saying. And I'll put it on the screen too, in case you can't see it in the comments. It'll be in the comment section after the live is over as well. It also, that brings me to my next one that I dropped in there too. If you want to be a guest on here, if you are starting a business, you want to talk about your debt-free journey, you are a real estate agent, broker, you want to talk about home buying experience, for people who want to know about it, like those type of conversations, let's have them on here. See one more comment. And I'm gonna get back to my story time, and then I'm gonna get ready to wrap up. Are you as you should worry about yourself? Blah, 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 blah. Let me see. I missed anything that's going on? Okay. So I got to all the whole why, blah, 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 and money behaviors and different stuff. I think so. Tisha, let me know if I answered your question about the saver part. So that's what I was saying. To me, I was at a point where I was saving and I was like scared to do anything with it. Like I was investing in my 401k, but I wasn't too comfortable with investing. So that's what I'm talking about with those extremes, and you can't live out of fear. And that's what I had to get to really understand and to get over. And that's why I started journaling, and I was like, like understanding this different stuff. So I want to go back to some of the red flags too. Besides, I want to talk about it. I would just say some common. Let me jump back to couples that come in consult with me. or they're thinking about getting married, or like, should, when we get married, our credit score is going to be combined. Unless I missed something in the last 24 hours, there's no like marriage credit score. And when you want to go in for credit together, they both will be analyzed together, but you don't get like a marriage credit score. So if you are marrying someone with bad credit and you have great credit and you want to buy a house, you guys are going to be looked at together. I'm not a mortgage banker, but that's just, I do know that much as far as you guys will be analyzed together as a whole. So that could prevent you from getting a certain interest rate on a home. If you do things jointly together, you got the person with the bad credit will bring you down and you will have a higher interest rate. Same thing for like a car, or doing joint credit cards. Like that person with the bad credit score will bring you down when you're trying to get, not, they'll bring you down to the point where you won't have such a high, you will have a higher interest rate because that person has bad credit. So another thing that I get is about the credit score, about taxes and child support. What does that look like when we get married? So everyone asks that question, but when they come in, after I have an individual come in asking that question, but I'm like, have you talked to your partner about it? So it's like, no. So that's my first thing. If you need to ask these questions. Like I said, when I asked my then partner about it, he didn't want to talk about it. So if you can't get these answers before getting married, before moving in, you have to determine for yourself if that's a deal breaker. Like for me now living there, that would definitely be a deal breaker. Like sometimes some people may be watching this is common sense. Well, when you are blinded by love, you just don't think, you always are optimistic and it's a reason behind it. So that's one thing that people misunderstand about getting married. Is it a combined credit score? And what does it mean look like if do their debts become my debts? So your debts before you get married are your individual debts. But if you marry someone and they have a shopping problem, whether it's the shoes or whether it's the electronic gadgets, or whether they or if it's lawnmower or home building equipment and you don't know about it, the depending on what state you got married in, will determine if it's both you guys' debt. And it only really matters if in the event of divorce. But that's what it matters. So again, it's good to know your partner's money behaviors, even if they have it good on paper. What are their spending habits like? What are they trying to grow to? So this thing about financial goals is what I would say. When working with couples, when they come in, it's always one person that knows the numbers, and that's usually the saver. Whether it's the woman or the male in the relationship, it's the saver is the one who knows the number. So what I'll say, what do you all bring in per month? If they're not living together yet, they're thinking about it. They're like, the saver knows what they're bringing in. The spender is like, it's about, never know the right numbers. It's always around about. And I'm like, the pre-work before is knowing your numbers before we have the conversation. So that's the difference between saver and spender. That's just what I've seen when working with people one-on-one. And when it is usually with couples, is usually their goal is to buy a house. So they want to improve their credit score. That's usually 9 times out of 10 when couples are saying that they want to improve their finances, is usually because their credit score is holding them back from getting the interest rate that they want to get on a home. So they're like, how can we improve our credit score? Then the other thing is, I've had couples that come to me and they're like, I don't even know where our money's going. We both make good money, and I just feel like I don't know where the money's going. She doesn't know, he doesn't know. And so they're like, we feel stuck and we want to do a budget. So it's usually one of those extremes. Someone's fed up in a relationship. They feel like they don't know where the money's going, or they both collectively want to get to a goal. So it's going back to those behaviors. Again, make sure you're hitting those hearts. Make sure you are sharing this if you are liking what you are hearing, so more people can hear this, my business that I put out here in the streets. But look, hopefully you guys are taking away some things from it. So drop some comments in to let me know. And I'm gonna get ready to wrap out in a second. Make sure I hit on everything I wanted to cover. As far as it relates to the whole financial entanglement debacle. I think I did. I talked about how you can't force it. You can't force someone to talk to you about money if they are avoiding a situation and conversation over and over again. It's for a reason. It's not even just talking about it to a certain point. If you're talking about marriage, you need to see the numbers. So you need to see the numbers on paper, not just taking word of like taking what they think to know to be true. Saver versus spender I talked about, and I talked about the 6 financial plans, and we talked about financial infidelity today. So I'm gonna close it out. If you guys don't have any more comments or questions, be sure to, if you have questions for me that I could not answer and I didn't want to put your business out here all on Facebook and YouTube Live, be sure to click the link for a free consult up until August 1st. And if you want to be a guest, make sure you click that link and so book some time to talk with me. I will see you next time. Bye.